Okay, I'm going to do a quick video here on a alternative for a Leica. This is the Olympus 35RC, 35 millimeter. The lens is a 42 millimeter, and its widest aperture is 2.8. Some of these come in black. They're pretty rare, but most of them come in this silver and black configuration. First thing, compared to an actual Leica, you can tell that it's much smaller. Um, the Leica right now has a 50 millimeter lens, and also if you want to see from the sides, the Leica has an f2 lens, but it's still considerably larger. It's still a pretty small camera compared to like an SLR, but the Olympus is a real small little camera. Okay, um, the differences. Um, it's a little bit slower. It has an actual rangefinder system. When you focus the actual lens, you line up the images. The film wind is the advance is pretty similar. This has a one stroke. What I like about this camera is that the shutter is pretty quiet, but it has a pretty smooth travel. Some other Minolta small fixed lens rangefinders or Olympus, I've noticed it's much longer, and the travel is a little bit stiffer. But these are actually pretty smooth, and they have a release screw where you can tie an auxiliary shutter release. It just screws in the shutter button right here. It does have a hot shoe. This does open. It's much easier to load. It has a little tab in the bottom, and you just lift up the top. Compared to the Leica, whether it's a newer one or an M2 or an M3, these are much easier to load. This does use a battery for the light meter. You can still use it without. Some meters it's hard to find one that the meter is working, and if you do find one, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. This only goes up to 500 is the highest shutter speed. It does have bulb, and it has 15, 30, 60, 125, 250, and 500. Not too bad. You can try using neutral density filters. 1500 is pretty good if you're using like 400 speed film. The lens is not going to be as sharp as a Leica, but it's still pretty good. If you hold the camera pretty still and you use a nice reasonable shutter speed, it could really do some pretty sharp photos. And in the used market, they're not too expensive, so if you drop it, if you lose it, or if it develops any kind of problem, it's not a huge investment. For the price of a CLA for a Leica, you can probably get one of these in very good working shape. The aperture is also controlled. If you saw that, it's a little bit harder to change the aperture on these, but it's not too hard. It also has an auto mode. If you want to put it on that, the camera tries to work. This one doesn't have a working light meter, so I always use the manual in a manual way. But here you go. This is the first. I'm going to be doing a few other cameras that you can use instead of before shelling out some big bucks for a Leica. If you want to get some experience in using a rangefinder, these are really nice. Thanks for watching the video.